After the Pittsburgh Penguins pulled off a massive trade the other day, general manager and president of hockey operations Kyle Dubas took to the mics and dropped this bomb that left Leafs fans in shock. What's up, Leafs fans, and welcome back to Leafs Digest. We're getting closer and closer to the season, so we're breaking down more and more rumors that are coming out about this team, and I was sitting here hoping that the only thing we were going to have to talk about coming up into next season was the things that were actually mattered for next season, but here we are sitting here talking about things that have gone down over the last couple of days, dating back to last season, so we'll get into all of that, but before we do, I just want to remind people or let people know this show, this episode specifically, is brought to you by rentals.ca. Thank you to rentals.ca. They are Canada's largest apartment hunting network. You can rent apartments, houses, and condos across the entire country from coast to coast. I mean, look, we're talking Toronto, Calgary, Montreal, Vancouver, Ottawa, Winnipeg, Halifax, coast to coast, ladies and gentlemen. So if you are looking to find a new apartment, a house, or a condo, just like I did the other day to move into this new place that I'm in currently right now, make sure to head over to rentals.ca. You can use their website. It is clean and easy to use. Very, very, very nice user interface over there at rentals.ca. You can find the link to that in the description of this video, as well pinned to the top comment here on this video as well. So make sure to go check out rentals.ca if you are looking for a new place for yourself, just like myself here, having moved down to Toronto, so that I can get the inside scoop on what's going down with the Toronto Maple Leafs this upcoming season and bring you guys significantly better content. But let's get into the most important things here, what we're here to talk about today. The Maple Leafs almost traded for Erik Karlsson. Well, that's what Kyle Dubas has left us to believe after his press conference, after he went out and acquired the Norris Trophy winning defenseman. So Sunday, August 6th, this trade goes down. We will get into exactly what happened here, but I mean, Pittsburgh goes out, acquires Erik Karlsson in a massive 3-team deal. Erik Karlsson comes in from the San Jose Sharks, mixed in with the Montreal Canadiens. There you can see Pittsburgh receives Karlsson, Pitlick, Hamiluk, a third-round draft pick in 2026. San Jose gets a first-round pick, Mikael Granlund, Jan Ruda, and Mike Hoffman. And the Montreal Canadiens receive a 2025 second-round draft pick, Jeff Petrie, Casey DeSmith, and Nathan Laguerre, So 3 teams get mixed into this one. Drops a bomb, shocks the hockey world when you wake up, or if you're walking around out getting coffee on Sunday morning and you find out, oh my goodness, the Pittsburgh Penguins have now acquired the 100-point defenseman who won the Norris Trophy last year. And I mean, he's right. There's when you're talking about Brian Hayes, we saw you tweet the other day. He tweeted out, Kyle Dubas become the NHL's pace car for making moves, from bunt singles to grand slams. He's got the stones and vision to pull off deals, never shy, which you do have to respect. Sometimes you're going to win on trades, sometimes you're going to lose on trades, but I don't think this was really something that people were saying they're too shocked that it had gone down. I think it was more of just, you kind of hear the name Erik Karlsson has moved teams, and it's that shock factor of the name value. It's not necessarily the fact that he actually did get traded, because we knew he wanted to be on the move. We knew he was talking to different teams about where he might want to end up in the upcoming season. There was different teams who had their hands in the pot trying to get this player onto their team for this upcoming season and the next 4 years, for that matter. But what was really shocking was when we found out about this, and this would be Dubas tried to trade for Karlsson, and that would be during his time with the Maple Leafs. I think it was kind of one of those things that was speculated on, that he had reached out and inquired about Karlsson, what it might take to come to Toronto, but it was never necessarily confirmed or put out there that, hey, this is one thing that was going on, or these guys were close, or this actually happened. We never really heard that from any reliable sources. Now, that is until the other day. Kyle Dubas himself says in his press conference, as you can see here in this article from David Alter, it was a fairly lengthy process that goes back to my previous employment. Well, Leafs fans, NHL fans, There's only one other team in the NHL that he was previously employed with, and that would be the Toronto Maple Leafs. I highly doubt he was trying to acquire Erik Karlsson while he was working with the Sioux Greyhounds, so this would mean that he had started this process, started inquiring and trying to figure out a way to get Karlsson onto his team when he was with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Before people go crazy here and start to freak out going, wow, the Leafs could have had Erik Karlsson, let's just run through some of the facts of the matter. Erik Karlsson is 33 years old. He's got an $11.5 million cap hit, and he's under contract for another 4 years here until 2027. So there's a few different things to consider because people in Toronto love the John Tavares deal. We're over the moon about it. John Tavares has produced at the exact same rate in Toronto as he did with the New York Islanders. He is paid to be a leader, a captain, win faceoffs, produce points on the power play, and he has basically carbon copied over the points that he had during his time with the Island to what he's at with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So when you kind of bring those over, there's no real reason for Leafs fans to be going nuts about the contract that he has, and yet they do. So what do you think might have happened if an Erik Karlsson comes here until he's turning 37, 38 years old and he's making $11.5 million? I can almost 100% guarantee you Leafs fans would not have been happy. And they would sit here and say, what a ridiculous contract. And then you go around and see people around the NHL, they'd be mocking the Leafs and mocking Leafs fans for this contract that Erik Karlsson is under. So before you go here and you sit and say, oh my goodness, the Penguins got Erik Karlsson, how brilliant is this? Just keep some of these things in mind. Now, I do want to also caution people here. We don't know the full extent of the details of what happened. Kyle Dubas dropped this line, and I'm going to say one thing, and only this one thing on this whole situation and where we've seen him go throughout the entire time that he left the Leafs to where he's at with Pittsburgh right now. Everything he does is insanely calculated. How he says it, when he says it, where he says it, and to who he says it. There is an extreme level of thought that goes into each and every single thing this guy is saying and doing. And yes, that's obviously a great thing to have as a quality of your president of hockey operations as well as your general manager. But let's not be naive to the fact that that entire saga that went down with him going up on stage when he was with the Leafs at the end of the season press conference, to the time where he was let go from the Toronto Maple Leafs, to the time that he signed with the Pittsburgh Penguins, he knew what was going on the whole time. He likely knew that there was opportunities on the table with Pittsburgh. He knew how things would go down here with the Leafs brass if he were to go up on stage and say that. And the other thing is, there is a high percentage that he knew that saying those things would get Leafs fans to sympathize with him and make the owners and the management group here in Toronto look bad, all while he says, sayonara Toronto, I'm going to Pitt because I want to be president of hockey ops. I want power. So he obviously knows what's going on. Let's just be cautious here when we're taking in these things that he's saying. Was he probably in on Karlsson? I'd imagine. But there's a chance that he's just throwing that dagger out there. He could have called. And the GM of San Jose says, yeah, we'd be interested in a deal. And he says, all right, let me figure it out. He talks to management. He talks to Brandon Pridham, and they say, we can't figure it out. And yet he's sitting here and he goes, well, I tried to get him when I was in Toronto. It's possible. It's also possible that he almost had pen on paper and then things got yanked away. We don't know. So let's not jump to conclusions on any of this stuff. Another thing I want to throw out there, just for people to remember during all of this, is that the trade process that he's talking about for Erik Karlsson, where he's trying to inquire about him or trying to get a deal across the line, this couldn't have started before last season. Karlsson had requested the trade during the season, not prior to. So that trade process wouldn't have kicked in till the season was underway. Making trades during season of this size, of this magnitude, are not easy and they are not common. It is very rare that you come across these massive 3-team trades where you're seeing 12, 13 players exchange hands, moving around, teams holding salary cap. It's not common that you see this. So during the season, it might have actually been very difficult for him to find any deal that might have actually been beneficial to Toronto. You look at the players that left Pittsburgh here. Yeah, Pittsburgh actually did a pretty good job of offloading some of the stuff that was there. I think San Jose made out pretty well there as well. But then, I mean, when you look at Pitt back, they're getting $10 million contract back with Erik Karlsson. There's a give and a take on some of that. If you're trading for an Erik Karlsson who's having the season that he had last year, there is a very, very strong possibility that his price point during the season was much higher. Because if there's one thing that people need to realize, need to remember in all of this, there's a very strong chance that Karlsson never does anything even close to what he just did last year again for the rest of his career. He is 33, and he just put up a career high in goals, assists, and points in a single season and hit 100 points for the first time in his career. There's a chance that never happens again. San Jose might have known during last season, hey, if we trade him now, you also get an extra year of his contract. You get an extra year of playoffs out of this guy while he is on this absolute tear of the entire NHL, and he's just torching everyone and everything he touches turns to gold. You can have him, and you can take him right now while he's on this heater. There's a chance that that price elevates, and what they just traded for might not have actually been feasible during the season. That's also a possibility with this. It's a very, very likely possibility there where you look at the guy and say you get a little bit more in terms of where he's at in his career, in terms of where he's at this season, and in just another run. So just be careful when we're looking at some of these things because we have no idea. The other thing, it's not 100% that this wouldn't have happened, but it's somewhat unlikely that Montreal joins in as a third party here and helps out Toronto facilitating this deal. It is a division rival. It is someone that you have to walk down the street and play all the time. And if you're looking across every time going, yeah, they have Erik Karlsson and we were a part of that deal to help them, and now it's going to torch us for the next 4 years, 5 years, there's a chance that Montreal might not have wanted anything to do with it at that point in time. So then you have to find another third party. And then you have to make sure that San Jose is getting what they want out of it from said third party. You have to appease that third party. There's a lot of things going on. And while the season is happening, it can be very, very hard to do. So who knows? Final thing that I'll say on all of this, guys, he's an offensive defenseman. He's not bad defensively. I'm not trying to say that. But he's not known for his defensive abilities. He's known for being one of the most superior offensive defensemen in the NHL. There was a point in time where he was the best player in the world, and it was largely because of his offensive abilities more than anything else. The Toronto Maple Leafs are mostly looking for defensemen, defensive defensemen to help them out. Guys who can replace Muzzins and help improve on McCabe and Brody and solidify some of those things and play alongside the offensive defensemen that they have here and that they've acquired. And once the Leafs signed Klingberg at around his $4 million cap hit on July 1st, I imagine they looked at Erik Karlsson and said, if we have to double this Klingberg salary into next season with a Karlsson deal or a Karlsson trade, we'd rather take the half price and take the flyer on the guy and see what he could do. Is John Klingberg Erik Karlsson? No, he's not. I'm not trying to say that. But what I am trying to say, Erik Karlsson and John Klingberg, it's very possible that they could have the exact same season next year. If Karlsson doesn't necessarily replicate what he had and Klingberg actually plays up to expectations of the player that he was during his time in Dallas, we could be looking at an incredible player here for $4.5 million who's capable of producing what Karlsson does next season. Not at Karlsson's peak, but what he does next season. So we'll see how everything plays out, Leafs fans. Thank you guys so much for tuning in here today. If you enjoyed the content, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications so that you get notified every single time we go live here on this channel or more videos just like this one come out. So make sure to hit like, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications as well. comment below your thoughts on the Karlsson situation, Dubas' comments, whether or not you think the Toronto Maple Leafs should have tried to make a harder push at acquiring Erik Karlsson last season. Leafs fans, thank you for taking the time to watch this here today. Keep believing.